What it is, everybody? Thanks for tuning back in here to another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Today we got an episode here talking about which is the most reliable Ducati here in the stable. And I got all the bikes and the ducks behind me in the stable, and between the four, which one do I own that is the most reliable? Well, I want to talk to you exactly about which one that is and why so. And it's going to definitely be the Hyper Motard. Solely because, well, let me start off by first and foremost saying it's the simplest. That's really why. And it doesn't have anything to do with why I ride it the least or anything like that. Actually, not the least. The V4 is actually the least. But it's the simplest bike of them all. Now, excluding the fact, obviously, when I dropped it in the field when I was horsing around, that doesn't count. But the only time only thing that I've ever had an issue with this bike, believe it or not, is sometimes changing the riding modes. When you do that, it decides to not engage, and then the check engine light comes on. Why? I don't know. One of those small other little annoyances that Ducati has, and they just really need to get their shit together. Why? I don't know why it does that, but it just doesn't. So, of all the other bikes, riding them, they're all leaking fluid, not turning on, not turning off, blinker lights not turning on, brake lights not working, headlights malfunctioning. Something's happened with all of them. Gauge clusters messing up, all of that between all of them. But this one, so far, since I've had it in almost a year of ownership, is the only one that doesn't have really any issues. Now, given the fact that it doesn't have a lot of the tech that the other three have, that also rules out the probable cause for a lot of other shit to potentially go wrong. Absolutely, I agree. But if you look at the bike as an overall construction, even the motor, it is an older design. It is an older motor. It's a very simple design. And all of the other bikes, they're a little bit more complex and stuff like that. And of course, that's what you pay for with the Ducatis and stuff like that. But with that, it's going to cause problems. So just a quick rundown of the V4, you already know that thing's got 5 or 6 recalls now or some crap like that, and handlebar clips come undone and all kinds of other stuff with the chains and stuff like that. I don't even need to keep going into it. This thing, you automatically know it starts when it feels like it. It won't detect the key half the time. The sending unit for the fuel system is taking the shit on it. The rear brakes have gone out twice. Whatever, that's the start. This one, the display cluster decides to not work when it feels like it. It just constantly decides to leak clutch fluid from the slave cylinder. I don't even need to get into it with all of you guys, but with this bike here, the Hyper Motard, this bike here solely has really given me the least problems. And when it did give me those issues, how did I resolve that? Well, because it has like part of the brains of an Audi. So they obviously want you to take this thing back to the dealership. Well, no. Okay, so you just disconnect the battery as usual for a little bit of time, let it reset, and then it goes away. Now, it's so convenient that they give you tools underneath the Ducati to fix the shit when it breaks, because they know what's going to happen. That's how crappy this bike... Nah, I'm just messing with you. All bikes usually come with a small little toolkit. I'm just kidding. I'm just picking on that part. But there's a little toolkit under there. You can unscrew the battery, let it sit for, 5 or 10 minutes or so. Let it draw, leave the ignition on or the lights or something like that. And then by the time you come back 5 or 6 minutes later, you plug the battery back up and everything works perfectly fine. So everything else, the bike is usually started every single time. I would really say, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, that the real only flaw with this bike is just obviously sometimes when it's cold, it decides to obviously not want to stay on if you give it gas right away. So it's kind of like the electric fuel injection, and the choke is, where the fuel injection is actually trying to obviously increase the idle when it's cold, is not working fast enough, and it gets confused obviously if you go ahead and give it some throttle when it senses some throttle input. But if you let it warm up for, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, it's perfectly fine. But if you get on it and you get on it right away and then you just start to go ride, 5 or 10 seconds after, not like wail on it wide open throttle or anything like that, but just cruise through first or second gear while it's still warming up, And as soon as you let off the gas, the shit will die. But, and definitely don't change the modes during that time because your check engine light will come on. But other than that, so far, this bike has been the most reliable, and it's still the most fun out of all the Ducatis because it's kind of like dirt bike, you know, it's a supermoto. It's fun. The only problem is it's just heavy. But when you trade all that heaviness, you get crazy amounts of speed for a supermoto because there is no other supermoto that is as fast as a Ducati Hypermotard and looks as cool as the Ducati Hypermotard. But so there is a little bit of trade-off to both of them. So I do have to still tip my hat. This is still my most favorite Ducati of all of them that I currently have. And it's badass. It's like a big Grom. That's what I always keep saying. It's a big Grom and it's super fun. So I figured I would share this little informative video of you guys because I love to pick on Ducatis and stuff like that. And I love to pick on my own bikes. And you guys seem to love it that I pick on my own shit. And I'm going to keep picking on them until they get them perfect. So that's going to wrap it up here for today's video. I hope you guys like what you saw. Again, Facebook, Instagram at The Speedbug. Same name. Here's YouTube. And we'll see you for another episode here on The Speedbug channel. Deuces.